Hello my dear students, welcome to Prudence Coaching English class. In this particular channel you will get ICSE, CBSE, WBBSE solutions.
You are very quiet, Tom, said mother. Is something the matter? So mother is asking why you are so quiet, Tom. Is something wrong with you? I don't like it here, I muttered. So here Tom is saying that he doesn't like the place where they are now. Why ever not? Asked mother, coming over to join me by the window. So mother came and joined Tom where he was standing beside the window and asked, why don't you like? What's the problem? It's cold and spooky, I replied, and I don't like the noises it makes. So here Tom is saying that it is very cold and it is strange and frightening, and even he can hear some noises, so he doesn't like the place. Noises? Asked mother, astonished. What noises? So here mother gets surprised and he just asks that what kind of noises can you hear here? I heard some noises, moaning, coming from our toy box, I replied. When Tom said that I can hear some noises and the noises was moaning sound means painful sound can be heard and it was coming from the toy box. Don't be silly, said mother. Come, let's go down and listen. Don't be such a scaredy cat. Matilda will come too and I will get dad too if you insist. Here we find mother is saying narrator not to be silly and she said him that let us go and see what you are saying. She even said Matilda a scaredy cat means someone who get easily frightened and along with them Matilda will also go, and if the narrator insists means if narrator wants then the mother will call their father and all together they will go to see what wrong with the sound. We went downstairs and entered the playroom. We stood and listened, we heard nothing. So when they went down and went to the playroom and they just stood there to listen what sounds are coming, they found that there was no sound or nothing can be heard. The sounds you heard must be come from outside, said mother. So here after they could not hear anything, mother says that maybe the sound were coming from outside. Now there is no sound. A gurgling pipe perhaps. Might be it is the sound of gurgling pipe. No, I said with some force as I backed out of the room. It was a cry, a moan. I'm sure. So here the narrator is saying that he is sure that it is not a sound which was coming from outside and he just came out of the room and he just said that it was a cry and it was a moan. Over the next few days, we settled in. I should say the rest of the family settled in. I was far from settled. I heard the cries whenever I went into the playroom and approached the toy box. And each time I heard the cries, I screamed. But when the others came running to listen, there were no sounds at all. So here from this paragraph, we get to know that over 1 week, everyone was settled down in this room. But this narrator was far from settled, means he was not able to settle in this particular house because every time he went into the playroom and went towards the toy box, he heard some cries and he just screamed, means he just shouted, and when others came running to see what was happening and they could find no sounds at all. By the end of the week, everyone was most annoyed with me. They came running to the room whenever I screamed. My parents did not believe me and assumed I was making up story to get their attention. My sister blamed me for the moodiness of my parents and said that we might lose the use of the room for our entertainment if I kept this up. By the end of the week, what happened? Everyone was slightly angry and irritated with the narrator. Everyone came running whenever he screamed. Even the parents of narrator assumed that he was making story to get their attention, and his sister blamed him for the moodiness or the change of mind which the parents was getting due to the crying and the screams of this narrator. Even we find here Matilda blamed narrator for the moodiness of their parents and said that if it goes on like this then they are going to lose the playroom, that is their entertainment. One morning, determined not to scream, I plucked up the courage to enter the playroom. I had avoided it for 3 days, but now my mind was made up. I would get to the bottom of the mystery and not scream. The curtains in the rooms were drawn, so it was dark and musty in there. As I entered the room, I felt a draught of air. The windows were firmly shut. So was the front door. Wondering where the draught was coming from, I drew open the curtains. Sunlight flooded into the room, but it still felt chilly. The light, however, had given me some courage. I approached the toy box quietly and cautiously. As I drew near, I felt the breeze again, and then I stopped in my tracks. A moan floated up from the box, but I held my breath and did not cry out. I backed silently out of the room and once in the hall, hastened to find my mother.
So in this paragraph we find one morning this narrator was determined not to scream. He just determined that he will not cry and he went into the playroom. And it was after 3 days, because in this 3 days he never entered this room because he was afraid. But after these 3 days, one morning he was determined and he went inside the room to find out the
mystery of this feeble cry. So he just went inside and he saw that the curtains were drawn, so there were no sunlight, and the room had a musty smell. And after that he went and opened the curtains, and after that some sunlight came into the room. After some sunlight came inside the room, he got some courage from the light and he approached the toy box quietly and very cautiously without making any mistake. When he went towards the toy box, he heard the floating cry again. This time he did not cry. He just went outside the room very silently, and he went to his mother for calling her and showing that what was happening. Next, I found Mother and Matilda baking a cake in the kitchen. So he went to the kitchen and found that Mother and Matilda were making cake in the kitchen. Hurry, come with me, I urged, but don't say a word or make a sound. So Matilda here, he is saying that hurry, make first, you just come with me and you just don't make any sounds. Looking puzzled, they followed me to the playroom. With my fingers over my lips, I tiptoed across the floor towards the box. They followed closely and silently. As we approached the box, there was a cry and then some mumbling. An adult voice saying something, a further cry, followed finally by a scream, which I had controlled till then but now could not hold back no longer. We stood there for a moment, breathing softly, listening intently, but heard nothing more. So here we find Mother and Matilda were puzzled, but they followed the narrator, and narrator put finger on his lips and they just tiptoed across the floor and went towards the box. When they heard the cry, means this time Mother, Matilda and narrator all could hear the cry. After that they heard some mumbling sound of some adult person saying something. Then after that they could hear the cry again and finally followed by some scream. That is the scream of the narrator. Means now narrator just shouted because he could not control anymore. Next, they just hold on the cry, and after that when they wanted to hear the feeble cry once again, they could not hear anything.
Further entered the room at a gallop. What is going on here? He asked abruptly. What has happened? So here we find Father entered the room hurriedly and he asked what is going on here. Then he was continuing his sentence and suddenly he stopped himself. He paused in mid-flow, noticing us standing in silence, Mother indicating with one finger to her lips for him to be quiet. So here the father stopped because he noticed that all of them, means Matilda and narrator, even the mother was silent. So he stopped. Again he saw that Mother was just keeping her one finger on her lips to show father that he should keep quiet. We left the room and proceeded in an orderly fashion to the living room where Mother explained what had happened. After this, all of them went back to the living room and their mother explained to the father what had happened in the playroom. Well, you wait here, said father when he heard the story. I will investigate. So when father heard the story, he said that you wait here, I will investigate what had happened. Father marched out of the room purposefully. After a moment, we heard a box being dragged over the wooden floorboard in the playroom. After a while, father joined us again. So what happened? So father went out of the room purposefully and went and dragged over the wooden floorboard in the playroom, and after that he came back again and joined mother, Matilda and narrator. Come with me, he said, going towards his golf bag in the hall. I think it's high time. We had a good look at the old storeroom and the coal bunker at the side of the house. I found an ear vent in the wall hidden behind the toy box. We will find out where it goes. And just in case, I am taking a golf club. So here we can find that father came and he just went towards his golf bag and took out a golf club, and he said that he is going to find out what is there behind this air vent which was beside the toy box, and there was a coal bunker and old storerooms. So they went there. Father selected a 3-iron and led the way, swinging it in the air. We crunched over the gravel, passed through a narrow gap in the thick hedge surrounding the side garden, and approached the part of the house adjacent to the playroom. There were hundreds of broken tiles, old door and window frames, and rusting bicycles and other unwanted and broken pieces of furniture piled against the wall and scattered over the parts of the garden. So here in this particular paragraph we find father was showing them the way, and he had a 3-iron in his hand which he was swinging in the air, and Matilda, narrator and the mother were following him. So they passed through the narrow space and they reached to a house which was adjacent to the playroom. Beside the playroom, there were hundreds of broken tiles, means tiles were there which were broken, old doors were there, window frames were there, rusting bicycle and other unwanted and the broken pieces of furniture were just kept there. All were scattering here and there. We will have to get all this rubbish removed, said father, picking his way through the debris. When father was moving on this debris, that is unwanted things, he said that these things should be removed. All this must have been cleared out of the house when it was renovated. What a mess. So here father is saying all these things, that is the broken things, unwanted things, were just removed from the house when the house was renovated. So this is a mess. We could see 2 windows low down on the wall and some steps leading down to what looked like a cellar door. The path to the door was clear, so it was obvious that someone had used the doorway quite recently. So what happened when they went there, they saw some windows and a path which was going down, and the path was clear. So by this clear path they understood that this was used by someone recently. Further clambered down the few steps to the door. Mother, Matilda and I stood at the top, wondering what he would do. Father rapped on the door with his golf club and called out, "Hello, is anybody there?" So here we find that father with very difficulty went down few steps and he was asking that whether there was someone inside the place or not. And Matilda, mother and the narrator were standing on the top, means they did not go inside the room. And there was no answer. He rattled the rusty doorknob and struck the door again with his club. Then he turned the knob and the door clicked open. The light from the open door and the windows on the either side of it filtered into the room. There was some movement inside and father stood back with his club raised. We could hear a tearful woman's voice. So when the father found that no one answered, he just rattled the rusty doorknob and struck the door with his club. Then he just pushed the door and the door opened and light went inside, and after that some movement was found inside that room. So father stood back with his club and he just raised the club in his hand, and after that they heard a tearful woman's voice. Sir, we do not mean any harm, sobbed the woman. So while crying, this woman said that, please sir, forgive us, we are not here to harm you all. Who are you? And what are you doing here? Demanded father. So father is asking, who are you and what are you doing here? We have nowhere to live, sir, explained the woman. We found this place by chance and moved in for shelter. We have been living here for some weeks now. So here the woman is saying that they have no place to live in, therefore they got this place by chance and moved in this place for their shelter, and they are living for some weeks now. Who is with you? Asked father. So here father is asking that who else is there with you? My little child, cried the woman, turning to look towards a cot which stood against the wall behind her. She is not well, sir, because of the damp. She cries a lot, and my husband Jack has gone to the village to fetch her some medicine. So here the woman is saying that with her a little child is there who is not well because of the damp, and she cries a lot. Therefore her husband, whose name is Jack, went to the village to bring some medicine. Well, the mystery of the morning toy box has finally been solved, I thought to myself as we stood there looking sadly at the raised woman. They will stop complaining about my vivid imagination now.
So here the narrator is saying finally the mystery has been solved while they were looking at the raised woman, and he also added by saying that now no one will say him that he is making any vivid imaginations. Mother took charge of the situation immediately. 1 month later, the child was gurgling with laughter on the sunny lawn outside the house. So here, mother took the charge of the situation means the situation was handled by the mother, and after a month, the child was gurgling means laughing on the sunny lawn outside the house. The woman, Frances, was employed to help in the house. Her husband, Jack, was given the job of gardener and handyman. The coal bunker and the storerooms were cleared, damp-proofed and painted. The rubbish from the side of the house was removed and the shrubs were planted. Everything worked out well for all of us. The spooky house became a warm and comfortable home. So here we find that the woman whose name was Frances was kept in the house as a housemaid, and her husband was given the job of a gardener and the handyman, and all the coal bunkers, storerooms were cleared and they were damp proofed and painted well, and all the rubbish were removed and shrubs were planted and everything worked well, and finally the spooky house, that is the frightening and strange house, became a warm and comfortable home for everyone. With this, we come to the end of this chapter. If you find the content of this video helpful for you, then please like this video, and to get more videos like this, subscribe our channel, and to get notification of the newly uploaded video, press the bell icon and never miss any update from this particular channel. In the next class, we will start with the question answer of this particular chapter. Till then, stay happy, take care of yourself. Thank you.